Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and tonight I want to talk about the next gen consoles versus the PC experience and why I think we are closer now to the PC experience than we've ever been. So, I've have the Xbox Series X, I got that day one. I have the PlayStation 5, and I bought the Xbox Series S for my daughter. And I'm telling you, being able to play games at 120 frames a second with resolutions up to 4K on some games is is an amazing experience. So I mean, we really haven't had a whole lot of games that have come out that are like really pushing the visual boundaries until well, I guess we did get Miles Morales and Demon Souls and stuff, for the PlayStation launch. But I've only had my PlayStation for a couple of months, so those experiences were pretty new to me just a couple of months ago. On the Xbox Series X, we've only had, the medium, but that really wasn't hitting like a. I mean, it was hitting, in 4K, a native 4K, and the visuals did look pretty good on that. But the frame rate, 30 frames a second. But I mean, I can understand, how that game was, pretty demanding, running two different environments, simultaneously. So it was kind of a trade off, but I mean, it was definitely a good experience. Definitely took me back to early Silent Hill games, and it was fun. It was definitely. I mean, I was able to finish that game in one sitting, within like 10 hours. It was that good. I rarely ever do I get into a game and can just get right through it and sit through it. Sometimes it depends on my mood, but when it's a really good experience, I really get into it. That's when I know it's a good game because it kept my attention the whole way through. So, and then we had Gears Tactics, not my kind of game, but it does look amazing. So, with the Series X experience, because I'm going to talk about that one, the most because that's the one I've had the longest and have had a lot of experience. But I will be, you know, talking PlayStation 5 as well because the PlayStation 5, in my opinion, like right now out of the gate, the PlayStation 5 has delivered more of that next gen visuals. Granted, most of the stuff has been upscaled on the PlayStation 5. I'm not really a big fan of like checkerboard rendering and stuff, but this console really does it really well. The only thing that I've really noticed that you can notice the checkerboard rendering or something is the hair and uh, the vegetation. Always looks kind of fuzzy, and I just do not. I, I don't I don't like it. It kind of breaks the immersion for me when I see that. Because I sit pretty close to my TV. That's what 4K TVs are made for, so that you can be a little bit closer to them. So I'm anywhere from 2 to 3 feet away from my screen, 55 inch when I'm playing. Most of my games, my area's kind of small that I keep all my stuff in. I don't like to have it in the front room around everybody. I like to kind of put myself in a confined space and just do my thing. Um, so how I believe that now with these consoles we are closer to the PC experience than we have ever been. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I believe we are getting a definite mid-tier, upper mid-tier experience with these consoles. And out of the gate, like we all know that generations kind of start off slow, but as the generation moves on, we are going to get way better performance. We're going to get way better visuals. I'm excited about this generation. I feel I was about to go and and upgrade and just get a PC this generation. I I really want, because I I'm a sim racer, so I have my sim equipment, and it's compatible with PC or my Xbox. So that was the main one of the biggest reasons I insisted on having the Xbox Series X first, was to take advantage of that. And my experience with the games that I like to play, like the rally games and Assetto Corsa Competizione, my expectations for that have been met. I am satisfied with the experience that I have now. I can play um, WRC 9 at 120 frames a second. I can play Dirt 5 at 120 frames a second. Assetto Corsa Competizione is going to be getting a next gen patch, so we might get 120 frames a second. It just depends on how well they'll be able to optimize for the new consoles, and to see if they can really take advantage of that, because I hear that game's pretty heavy on a PC. So, and I mean, it ran terrible on last gen consoles. But for my experience so far on the Series X, it seems like it's pushing it pretty good, like no problem. Online racing has been smooth. Um, Racing the AI has been smooth, and for the most part, I do a lot of time trials. So that's been smooth. It's been great. I have never felt better than I do right now with my sim racing games. Everything's running, at a solid minimum 60 frames a second on everything. So I'm happy. I am content with how these new consoles compared to the PC experience. I was able to get a Series X, a PS5, and a Series S for my daughter, all for the cost of a mid tier PC that would have cost me over $1,500. I'd been eyeballing it for a while, and I was about to pull the trigger in my pre-order for my Series X went through, and I was like, yeah, cool, $500. Let's give this a shot. Let's see what we got. And I'm blown away. Honestly, I'm blown away. I am blown away at the at the experience that I've received so far with the next gen consoles. I have, they say that no man can serve two masters. He'll end up loving one and hating the other, and that is definitely that is definitely true when it comes to consoles. Seeing as I'm leaning more toward Xbox this generation, I have been a little more salty with the PS5, and I felt like I've been looking for reasons to not like it, but I'm starting to come around, and I'm starting to get over that little hurdle in my head, that oh my gosh, this one's better, because last generation, after I got the Xbox One X, I barely touched my PlayStation 4 Pro. I only played that when I had Sony first party game. I quit buying third party titles for my PlayStation altogether and bought everything on Xbox. And honestly, I'm glad I did, because the enhanced backward compatibility of the Xbox Series X, no doubt, is better than what the PlayStation 5 has to offer. Just because the fact that the games had better textures and higher resolutions, native resolutions, a lot more dynamic stuff that's now hitting. Like it's night and day from any of the games that I had on PlayStation 4 Pro prior to upgrading to the series or to the One X. Those games don't even hold a candle to the experience that the Xbox One X version now gives me on the Xbox Series X. So I am grateful that I did make that decision early on in the Xbox One X life cycle. And, that pretty much has carried through to this generation too. I feel like my PlayStation 5 is going to be mostly for PlayStation 5 exclusives. Um, I mean, and that sucks because I really do like the PlayStation 5. I think it is an amazing console, and the loading times on some of the games are freaking instant, and that's amazing. I mean, I did buy that It Takes Two, so me and my wife could play it on the PlayStation 5. Bought an extra controller for that so that we could play that together. We got pretty far into it, and then um, since I started this YouTube channel, I haven't really set it up and played with her. So I'm probably gonna try to talk her into playing some, this week again. Maybe we'll capture some of the footage and I'll put it on the channel because that is a pretty fun experience to play with somebody else. And I'm glad that I decided to get that on the PlayStation 5 so that we could experience that. And I'm not gonna lie, in 2 months with the PlayStation 5, I probably put, oh gosh, maybe 25 hours on it. So I haven't given myself enough time with my PlayStation 5 to actually start loving it, but I'm pretty sure by the end of this year we're gonna have Horizon Forbidden West and the new God of War. So it is definitely gonna get some playtime out of those. I do kind of want to strike more of a balance this generation and buy some more third party games for my PlayStation 5 because it is an amazing console. It's the start of the console generation, and I do want to put more time into it. And I want to not be so one sided. I want to be able to experience the best of them, the best of both consoles. And I mean, that's saying, no man can serve two masters because they'll end up loving one and hating the other. I want to see if I can. I want to see if I can get away from that and not be so one sided because I used to be 100% Sony fanboy. Like I always bought a PlayStation every generation first before I even considered buying the Xbox. And gosh, I don't. It's just the Xbox's attitude toward gaming and toward preservation and all of that stuff that this new generation out of the gate that and enhancing my library of games has just that's made me really happy that. And then PlayStation, just basically doing the bare minimum. It's tough, especially when you invest in games to keep and not um, and not just to consume them. If you're going to keep them and go back to those, at a later time, or your backlog starts getting longer and longer as you get older, because I mean, like I've said before, I have more money than time now. I mean, I'm not rich or anything, like barely, middle class or whatever, but I mean, I mean, I guess when you work, you have a career and stuff that you work in all the time, you tend to, in a family, you end up having more money than time, like where, when you're younger and you have, all the time in the world because your time's not split between, your family and your job and everything else, you tend to have less opportunity to experience things. And so as you get older, things start to change. I mean, they started changing for me in my 30s. I started getting um, more responsibility and less time to play video games. I mean, there was a good 7 year break that I took from you know being a really being really heavy into gaming, and that was my mid 20s to my early 30s. I mean, I didn't completely quit playing, but I did kind of back off it a little bit, for, well, actually a lot. That was doing school and stuff like that. So I did kind of take more of a break from video games than I should have. But let's get back to this console generation. Like I'm so glad that I decided to go console and not PC. It took me forever just to figure out how to set up some of my software on my PC. Like I just don't have the time to sit and play around with the game on the PC when I can just put it in my Xbox or my PlayStation and start playing what the developer had intended, developer settings. I do hope that this generation does continue to give us options like the Resident Evil Village. You can either play it you can either play frame rate, or you can play with, the ray tracing and all of that stuff enabled. I hope that we continue to get experiences like that. And I really do hope that they strike more of a balance in performance, as well as give us, higher resolutions and better looking experiences than we have in the past gen. I would prefer a 60 frames per second with good visuals over a 30 frames at 4K. Like this generation has definitely changed my mindset on that a lot, because it used to be I would prefer, the pretty visuals and higher resolution at 30 frames a second than to take a hit on that. And I don't know, I'm still kind of there. Like I want my pretty visuals more than, but I do want that performance now. I want at least 60 frames a second. Anything above that I can still live without. I would rather have the visuals than the 120 frames. If that makes sense, I would much rather have the better visuals than the 120 frames. So I hope that we could strike a pretty good balance with 60 frames a second this generation. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is the closest we've ever gotten to a PC experience with a console, and I am grateful that I was. Yeah, I'm grateful that we've gotten there. I know that Microsoft and PlayStation are losing a lot of money putting this kind of power in a console, but I am forever grateful to them, and I really believe that this generation is going to push gaming to a whole nother level that we've never seen before. Not only is this good for console gamers, but it's also going to be good for the PC space, because now that they're able to have the power to make better experiences, that's going to translate to PC, because most developers develop for consoles and then port to PC. So yeah, this is going to be an amazing generation, to say the least. I am super excited about some upcoming games that I will be playing on this channel and reviewing for you. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.